All right, so it hasn't started yet. We got a couple of minutes, so I'm going to play a song by a band called Bad Religion, and I think this is apropos. We got a couple of minutes, so I'm going to play a song.
Expressions on the faces of the starting millions, the power of the plan, the few that drives the clan. He's the motive and the conscience of the murderer. He's the preacher on TV, the false sincerity, the formula that's written by the big computers and nuclear bombs. The kids with no moms, and I'm fearful that he's inside me. Yeah, we've got the American Jesus, see him on the interstate. We've got the American Jesus, exercising his authority. We've got the American Jesus, bolstering national faith. We've got the American Jesus, overwhelming millions every day. Yeah.
Well, looks like they haven't started yet. Let me know. It looks like you guys can hear me, so that's good. Well, they haven't started yet. So let's do one more song.
damage to this little mom and pop pizza place, which
There
is
we go.
bull crap. Anybody that researches this for more than 30 minutes will automatically know that this is very real, very disgusting, and we need to be in prayer against this. Joining us, we have author and researcher William Ramsey, author and whistleblower William Schnoblin, and last but not least, we have David Carrico, author and researcher of more than 20 books. And so this is going to be a very interesting show, and we're going to get to the bottom of this. We're going to see, is this a hoax? Is this real? And if you're watching this right now,
it's a hoax, and basically this guy's business is suffering because of it. Idiots like this are going around making all these videos about this. This is their assumption, is that there's a child prostitution ring through a pizza place. Their solution to this problem, where they believe that children, small children, are being molested and sacrificed and eaten through cannibalism, which a lot of people believe, their solution is to pray about it. Not call the FBI, not call CIA, not call Child Protective Services, not even call the UN if they believe that the FBI and CIA is corrupt. No. Their solution is to pray about it and hope it goes away. If this is actually happening, this is what they believe, this is their solution. I know, and I'm 99.9% sure this is all bullshit. It's all trumped up conspiracy crap. But if there was a chance or possibility, if it was true, I certainly wouldn't be praying about it. I'd be contacting the proper authorities. But no, these idiots decide to pray about it. So, yeah, thanks. Good luck with that.
now I suggest that you share this video right now, because this may not be around after we're done, because I've already been I shared this on Twitter earlier. Twitter deleted the link, made the link not searchable on Twitter. So Twitter's already going against what we have going on here.
Yeah, because basically people perpetuating this whole Pizzagate thing, there's real world consequences. Waiters, wait staff, people who work at this restaurant, Comet Pizza in Washington, D.C., are receiving death threats. Okay? People are threatening lives of people who work in this pizza place. So, yeah, this Pizzagate thing is getting way out of hand. That's why Twitter, Reddit, and a lot of these places are deleting this. They're not trying to cover up anything. They're trying to protect people who are potentially becoming victims of stuff. I don't know if anybody's actually been hurt by it, but I do know that the wait staff at that restaurant have been threatened.
They're already pushing our link away. Facebook hasn't done it yet, and YouTube hasn't done it yet, but I would say that there could be a big chance that this is going away, because not only are we going to just talk about this, we're going to go in very detail. William Ramsey, I'll let you kind of go first, William, talk a little bit, because you have been putting together on your Facebook, putting together this like a private investigator. I mean, you've been putting this together very well, and I know David has been studying this all day today.
He's an amateur investigator, and he's convinced that 3 young men who were arrested and charged with murder and then later found to be not guilty, he's convinced that these three kids who are proven to be innocent, is still guilty, and he is still perpetuating lies and bullshit about these 3 individuals, called the Memphis 3, if you ever want to look them up.
Putting it together, and so has William Schnoblin. But I'm going to let you kind of just tell us a little bit about...
And, of course, we all know about Bill Schnoblin and his bullshit lies.
About what this is, for people that are wondering, what is Pizzagate? I mean, to me, when I first heard it, it sounded cheesy. I was like, what? I mean, no pun intended, it sounded cheesy. I had no idea what this was. And so tell us what this is.
Thanks a lot for having me back on your program. I really appreciate it. I'm glad to be here with your other guests. So just want to say thanks for having me back on Now You See TV. I was following the WikiLeaks revelations as they slowly came out. And WikiLeaks was kind of slow rolling their drop on these Podesta emails that came from John Podesta, who is the head of Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign. And a lot of people were watching him, and they kind of keyed into a variety of different things. There were clearly a lot of backroom deals. There were collusion between Hillary Clinton's campaign and the media. And right before the election on November 8th, there was an email that came out that referenced something called spirit cooking. And that really caught a lot of people's eye. This is about 3 or 4 days before the election.
You've all seen my video on spirit cooking. Marina Abramovich is a performance artist. This whole spirit cooking thing was an installation that she did. It was also a book that she wrote. Yes, she does a lot of weird things with body parts and blood and all this stuff. Pig's blood, I think. But yeah, it's art. Whatever. There's people who pay millions of dollars for her art. Whatever. It's supposed to be shocking. And she publicly stated that she has nothing to do with Satanism or occultism. Even if she was a Satanist, what she is doing, although bizarre, it's weird, whatever, artists are weird anyway, but none of it is illegal. So it doesn't really matter. Even if the worst case scenario was the case, it still doesn't matter. She's not doing anything illegal.
It was an email to that involved both John and Tony Podesta. John has a brother, Tony. Both are kind of D.C. lobbyists when they're not working for people's campaigns. And this spirit cooking reference was by a lady by the name of Marina Abramovich. And what people realized was, upon research, is that this spirit cooking involved fluids. It involves pig blood.
No, it doesn't. The spirit cooking was an installation. It was also a book.
Human bodily fluids, breast milk, things like that, and that really.
No, she wrote. It was like a poem that she wrote in pig's blood. On the wall, it said, mix with breast milk, blah blah blah, feel the pain, or whatever. It was a poem that was part of the art installation. She did not actually mix breast milk with pig's blood and paint it on the wall. See, this is why these people are just latching on to this, because it is kind of bizarre. So they're like really latching on to it, going, oh, there's Satanism and occultism and everything into this. And they're just gathering all together and just convoluting everything. It's really at this point, it's ridiculous. It's really ridiculous.
Brought people to a very justified panic. Like, what is going on? Who are these people? And everybody in the alternative media picked up on this kind of spirit cooking, and they started asking questions. Who's Marina Abramovich? What are these people's relationship to other people? And they kind of started tracing around, and they realized that John and Tony Podesta and the Hillary Clinton campaign had a connection to Comet Ping Pong. It was
So let's go over their deductive reasoning here. Marina Abramovich, who does extreme art, bizarre art, uses pig's blood, whatever, very shocking artist. Basically, she's the mother of performance art. She started doing performance art way back, I think, in the 70s. And she's like the mother of performance art. Very famous woman, makes a lot of money doing this. People pay a lot of money for her various bits of artwork that she does do, because her art was mainly performance art. So Tony Podesta, who is the Podesta's brother, John. Yeah, Tony Podesta is the brother of John Podesta, and he actually works for Clinton. So Marina Abramovich, John Podesta, Hillary Clinton. That's the connection between Hillary Clinton and Marina Abramovich. I'm sure Hillary Clinton probably has met this artist because she's a famous artist in New York City, but it doesn't mean that Hillary and Marina Abramovich are like, shopping at Saks Fifth Avenue together or going out for tea. They probably just met like once or twice, or, I don't think they have a really close relationship, because Hillary Clinton is off running around, especially during this time, trying to get elected.
Pizza shop in northwestern D.C. And upon further review, they realized that there was a lot of code words and kind of odd language that Podesta and some of his cohorts were using. They were talking about pizza and hot dogs. There was one phrase about...
No one... It's a pizza place. How are they not going to use pizza? How are you going to talk about pizza and cheese in a pizza place? I mean, come on. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure this out, that if you're going to be in a pizza place, you're probably going to say the word pizza. You're probably going to say the word cheese. And it just because I don't even know how they associated these words with these things, these code words, that I still haven't quite figured out. But somehow these code words, somehow like cheese and pizza and hot dog mean something else. But it's just so convoluted. It's ridiculous.
I need pizza for an hour. And there was another one about, there was another email from a lady by the name of Lozado talking to John Podesta about having her young children over for a jacuzzi party and talking about their ages and how they'd be in the water. And people were like keying into how inappropriate this kind of information was. Well,
how is it inappropriate?
Some other intrepid researchers got onto Comet Ping Pong's Instagram pages, and the owner of Comet Ping Pong, a guy by the name of James Elephantis, who really nobody in a research community had no idea who this guy was, but they realized he operated under Jimmy Comet, and his Instagram pages had the same kind of strange terminology and symbols that John Podesta was talking about in his emails about pizza. And people realized that these were...
He owns a pizza shop, you fucking idiot. How is he not going to use the words pizza?
Terms in the pedophile community. That pizza represented young girls, hot dog, young boys, that there were certain phrases. But the Jimmy Comet Instagram pages really lit up on 4chan and on Reddit. So I think at one point Reddit had something like 30,000 subscribers. People were furiously exchanging information, and they realized just all kinds of other inappropriate pictures and pictures of people with young children. There was one that...
They were not inappropriate pictures. They were pictures of family members with their children and with their friends' kids. It's like anything else. They are personal photographs that were supposed to be private, and people got these images and started sharing them with everybody. I mean, if you think about it, that in itself is an invasion of privacy. I have a lot of nieces and nephews. They're all grown up now, but there's lots of pictures with me with young kids. It doesn't mean anything except those are my nieces and nephews. And those are personal pictures. And they shouldn't be out in the general public. I'm not going to be posting them on YouTube. I'm not going to be posting them to Twitter. These are personal images, personal pictures. There's nothing inappropriate about them.
I remember that involved a man with a young child that said chicken lover. Chicken is another term from the underground talking about young children. And so this made people even more furious and more concerned about what was...
Is there any possibility that whatever was written on there, chicken lover, meant something else? Like maybe the kid likes chicken? Like maybe he likes chicken pizza? Or maybe he likes chicken? I mean, it doesn't always mean whatever that code word is
going on. And so I kind of was just following this as it was taking place, and following these sites on Reddit. And just recently they Reddit shut down the entire research community that was covering Pizzagate. Pizzagate was just a term like Watergate that people could key into and use as a reference point, a hashtag kind of phenomenon. And so that was shut down, and people actually were trying to people did some research as to what Comet Pizza was, this place. And they went in, and there were pictures of the interior of this Comet Pizza place with a ping pong that was outside and inside, and there were weird, strange murals that involved like people sitting down holding a head in their lap. What? And there were very vulgar murals that were in the bathroom. And so
first of all, that vulgar, there was a picture of this person playing ping pong, and somebody had, you know how bathrooms are. Somebody had drawn in a penis on one of the things. And I mean, it's like stuff you'd see, especially in men's restrooms, where just people draw dicks everywhere. I don't know what the obsession with dicks in restrooms is, but they'll, for a good time, call Sally. I mean, they're always, if you have a mural in there, chances are somebody's going to deface it. They're probably going to draw a penis on it, or dark glasses, or a guy smoking a cigarette, or whatever. I don't know what they do in women's restrooms, but in men's restrooms, they're always drawn on the walls.
Whole kind of investigation's really only been for the last month, really, probably less than a month, 3 weeks. And it involves what they've done is they've kind of walked back the cat. They've gone back and looked at other emails. There was another WikiLeaks dump that involved a company by the name of Stratfor. They were kind of a mercenary intelligence company that could do individual intelligence stuff. And there was another email talking about $65,000 to import hot dogs and pizza from Chicago to the White House. And that really set people like, what the hell is going on with this? So, and they were talking about in that email about using the same channels. And and they also kind of walked back to just recently, within the last couple of days, they went back and looked at Andrew Breitbart, who was what would probably be, one of the more recent right-wing types who was really against cultural Marxism and the left. And he was tweeting about John Podesta 5 years ago in 2011, talking about how is this guy not arrested. So he must have had some knowledge or information about that. Andrew Breitbart died of a heart attack in 2012, in March of 2012 here in LA. But so this is still kind of a Pizzagate, as it's termed, is still kind of unfolding, and new information is coming out, and people are making new connections to kind of Haiti. There was a scandal that took place back, I think it was in 2010, that involved this woman named Laura Silsby, and she was caught by the Haitian government trying to take 33 children out of Haiti after the Haitian earthquake that took place in 2010. And she got caught, but the interesting thing is that Hillary Clinton's chief of staff was kind of watching over this case. She had an interest in the case, and that was revealed in the WikiLeaks revelations. And there are actually references in James Alefantis' Instagram account that references Haitian cheese or something. There's some kind of code phrase to Haitian children.
And you have some of this stuff on your Facebook profile. You have posted a lot of this, and to kind of spare some of these people covered in blood pictures, to spare that, we do have some pictures that William wanted to share tonight. If you feel like you're up to it, William Schnoblin, we can do it later here in a little bit. But I will repeat this: if you have children watching this, this is probably not the show to do it, because there are some very disturbing imagery, even the ones that aren't actual, just the paintings, some of the paintings hanging up and all that stuff. But anyways, continue. I just wanted to let you know that, let people know that on your Facebook profile, William Ramsey, and also on your YouTube, Occult Investigations. Is it Investigations, right? Occult Investigations.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I don't know I can't remember exactly that lady's name who supposedly was in Haiti. But if you look up Snopes.com and you put in Haiti plus Hillary Clinton, it'll come up. I can't remember exactly what it was, but, hopefully people are doing their own research into this. But yeah, if you go to Snopes.com, you put in Haiti plus Hillary Clinton, I think it'll come up. But this lady she did have to leave Haiti. I think she did, something happened there, but it wasn't for whatever it was that they were talking about. That's wrong.
My YouTube channel is William Ramsey Investigates now, so it's a lot easier to find. Or you can just type in William Ramsey.
Yeah, and you definitely want to check out this stuff. I mean, he's screenshotted these Instagram posts, these Twitter posts. This is disturbing stuff. And the WikiLeaks busted this thing out. And I just want to let people know that, the lawyer for WikiLeaks is dead. I don't know if you guys have covered that whole idea, but apparently a lot of people are thinking it definitely wasn't an accident. So anyways, continue with...
The lawyer for WikiLeaks was a young guy, 43. He worked alongside the Amal Clooney, George Clooney's wife, in the same law firm. and he supposedly tripped in front of a train and fell in
Ouch.
front of a train in London, which was very suspicious for this kind of younger.
Okay, anybody who's been at a train station in London, there is barely, I don't think there's any time where there's no one around in the London Underground. I guess maybe if you're riding home at midnight or on a weekday or something. It's a very, very crowded railway stations, especially downtown London. Very busy, very busy.
Healthy man. But yeah, so one of the other interesting aspects of the case is this guy, James Alefantis, was named in GQ magazine as one of the top 50 people in Washington, D.C., but he held no government post. He was just a pizza owner, a restaurateur, but he also had...
Oh, he must be a pedophile too, because he has a pizza restaurant.
Connections. He was the boyfriend of somebody by the name of David Brock, who runs Media Matters and also another PAC called Correct the Record, which during the Hillary Clinton campaign was heavily involved in countering any anti-Hillary information. So people who were posting stuff about Hillary were running up against CTR, what they called CTR trolls or shills, paid shills who would just counter anything. And I'm sure I ran into some. I know other people who were kind of investigating Hillary Clinton ran into some. So James Alefantis is connected, and there's pictures of him. There's actually a picture of him with this spirit cooking woman, not with the woman, but he had a picture of her on his Instagram account. So there are these overlaps between the Podesta information, Alefantis, Brock, the spirit cooker, Marina Abramovich. And one of the interesting things, if I can read out the Andrew Breitbart tweet, he wrote in February 2nd, 2011, he said, early on, did John Podesta imagine his baby MMFA, this is Media Matters, would be covering up for underage sex slave ops and hate crimes against blacks? So it seems like Andrew Breitbart kind of had a glimmer of what was going on 5 years ago. And so, the pictures are heavily charged pictures. There's definitely some pictures that are extremely disturbing, but I think they tell a story that is worth more than 1,000 words a pop. You just see that these people are in a very alternative lifestyle. They just have very weird things.
Alternative lifestyle is in code, don't you? Not Christian. That's code.
People have done research on some of the bands that have played at Comet Ping Pong, and those bands have referenced pedophilia and this pizza symbolism. And since people have kind of keyed into these terms in this community, you see that all of these other shows and other famous people have referenced this pizza symbol that is really remarkable. And people are still doing research. So the Pizzagate, just to kind of end some, the Pizzagate story is still unfolding, and people are still finding out different connections to it.
No, people are making different connections to it. I mean, all it is pictures and association of words and these wiki emails mentioning pizza and hot dogs and all this other stuff, which is not all that bizarre considering people eat pizza and they eat hot dogs. I mean, it's so, I hope none of these people are ever on a jury. I mean, what idiots.
Very interesting. Okay, now let's go over to, we'll go to William Schnoebelen next. And William, I know that you yourself, and most people that are listening know this, but there's a lot of people that don't. You yourself were in the Illuminati. You were also a high-level Mason.
Yes, William Schnoebelen was in the Illuminati. The Illuminati, I'm not even going to say it. The Illuminati doesn't exist, asshole.
And you were a Mormon. You were in witchcraft and Satanism. And so you were
He was never a Satanist. He took apparently he took a telecourse with the Church of Wicca in Boston, through the Frosts, Gavin and Yvonne Frost years ago. Yeah, he's an expert in Wicca.
Or an insider. And most people have no idea, can fathom how this is, that you're a believer now. This is something you've come out of. What what kind of stuff do you see in this? I know this is, you said
let's see
earlier,
what
this
he
is some of
makes
the
up.
weirdest stuff you've ever seen come out, being broken out. Is this a normal reaction for the people in the elitist class?
I'm not sure I'm following that question specifically. What do you mean?
Well, I mean, is this something that they, and I know the answer to this, I mean, obviously, but is this something that, the elites do? Is this normal behavior for them, these, curly types?
Yes, very much so. See, the thing people have to understand is this Marina Abramovich woman that, William, do you go by William or Bill?
Either's fine. William or Bill.
Okay.
Fine.
Me too. Anyway, I mean, she is a devotee of Crowley, and she's also apparently involved in what is euphemistically called cultural spiritism. And that's a term.
I don't believe I have to say this, but Marina Abramovich has never, ever publicly stated that she's a follower of Crowley. Matter of fact, she actually denounced it, saying that her upbringing is definitely, well, anyhow, she's never said she was a Satanist, occultist, witch, or a follower of Crowley. And I tend to believe the people who say what they are and are not. So I don't have to say, oh, she's lying to cover something up. No, I'm pretty sure she's so off on the end that if she was, she would admit it.
Or like voodoo, Santeria, Pelemayombe, these various African, Cuban, Catholic-y religions that are down in Central and South America. And so she's kind of doing a fusion of these things, which might seem really bizarre, but it's not really as bizarre as you might think when you look at some of the stuff I've encountered in my background. And so I don't know where to begin exactly, but I will say this. The underlying idea behind all this is twofold. Number one, the devil and his minions love to corrupt the innocent. And, of course, what can be more innocent than children? So that's the first point. And naturally that in turn leads to things like, when you're dealing with the powerful, you're dealing with, like this Podesta guy is one of the most powerful guys in the Democratic Party, and there's allegations that it reaches into the Clintons, which I wouldn't be a bit surprised about, and we can talk about that if you want. But, all of these people can then be blackmailed. If you're like, having sex with underage children, if you're engaged in human trafficking, I'm
still convinced that what this was all propaganda directed at Hillary Clinton right before the election. And I think that all of this crap was generated to throw bad light on Hillary Clinton. And I think it had so much momentum behind it. I think Trump spent so much money on it, or his staff or whatever, that it's taking a long time. So now these conspiracy theorists have just started running with this stuff. But I think the whole reason why that all came out around right before the election was to cost Hillary Clinton votes. And I think that, I don't know, maybe it succeeded, maybe it didn't. But that's what I think, because right at the election is when we heard about Marina Abramovich and all this stuff and Hillary Clinton. And so I think this was propaganda on the Republican side that just got way out of hand.
Film these things. They were doing this 30 years ago and they're doing it today. And then if you're a politician, like say, for example, this Wiener guy, and it's an unfortunate last name, but that's his name.
Yeah, Wiener's got problems.
Who's Huma Abedin's almost ex-husband, who, was sending sexually inappropriate, pictures and text to a 15-year-old girl and talking about rape fantasies. Well, this kind of an individual is...
I don't know about that, but he did send... His name is Wiener, first of all, and he sent dick pics to some young lady, and he's married. So, that kind of gives you an idea of who this guy is. And his name is Wiener. Come on. If your name is Wiener, don't be sending dick pics to some underage girl.
Very likely to be able to be profiled. not profiled, blackmailed. And they can use that to have a hold. And I know back then when I was in this junk, and it's probably worse now just because there is this what I call spiritual entropy that's happened to this nation, that I think a large number of congressmen and senators and these big political, and it's not just Democrats either, unfortunately, like this Dennis Hastert guy who he was a Speaker of the House, he was a Republican, he's now a convicted pedophile, and of course, good old Bill Clinton. I mean, we won't even talk about that. It's his exploits are infamous and legendary. And
well, just to interrupt for a sec, sorry to interrupt, but
sure,
Hastert is in the WikiLeaks emails and still remains friends with John Podesta. Sorry about that.
Yeah. Well, and all these birds fly together, birds of a feather flock together. And, because of that, I think there is this underground network of pedophiles, and there's another reason which I want to bring up. And David, you might remember this. You and I used to go to these talks out there in Indiana that Larry Kunk would put on. And one year I gave I couldn't tell you what year it was, I gave a very controversial message called Evil Communications. And this was probably 92, 93, somewhere in there. And I talked about the fact that in esoteric masonry and in the Crowley stuff and all of that, the belief is that if you have sex with young children and or ritually murder them, that you can somehow feed on their youth. You can steal their youth from them and then live longer and have literally immortality. It's a kind of sexual vampirism.
I have never ever come across that in any occult book, and definitely not Crowley's book. I don't know. He's the one who says he was a vampire, lived for 18 months off of nothing but human blood and wafers, but he seems to forget to mention that. He brings up Crowley and the Masons and all this other stuff, but he fails to mention that. Where did he get that blood that he lived off of for 18 months?
And this is alluded to by Crowley in his writings.
I don't think people voluntarily gave human blood to him for 18 months. I mean, it's bullshit anyway. I just know. I mean, come on, it's a lie. We don't even have to question it. But just the fact that he would perpetuate that, you would think other people would wonder, okay, where did he get that blood? Who was giving him blood?
And in his Book of the Law, which I want to get into later, it's also, people have commented about this Marina Abramovich woman because she's Serbian. And she was born, I think she's almost 70 years old.
She's pretty old.
And yet, I know we got plastic surgery and all of that, but if you look at her, she does not look like she's 70 years old. Maybe she just got, a good plastic surgeon, but maybe she's feeding off of all of these vibes because understand something, this woman is worth $10 million. That's her net worth. She is a performance artist. They call her the Grand.
So is he going to come to the conclusion that Marina Abramovich is a vampire? I mean, I would not doubt it. I mean, he's kind of hinting at that, but oh man.
Grandmother of performance art. And for those of you that are uninitiated, you're fortunate. But performance art is where people just stand up there and do weird stuff and call it art. And I mean, I watched this one video of her, and this is mild now. She just sits there in a chair in a white dress, white long gown, very modest, with her hair braided. She's got long black hair. And people just come up and they pay huge money to just sit in the chair and stare at her. And she stares at them. And this is art.
Yeah.
And this is one of her more mild things.
And actually, if you ever have a chance, I don't know what the video is called, but if you actually go and look at that video, it's really interesting because she's sitting there for I forget how long she was sitting there, 24 hours. And people were coming in to see her. People would sit there and they'd stare at her. They'd break down crying. People had a lot of very strong reactions to this, and all it was just two people just sitting there staring at each other. And I mean, It's performance art. This is the kind of art that this woman does. She's not afraid to break barriers. She's not afraid to go out on the edge. She's very much into understanding human psyche, what really goes on, because we all have this surface that we put on for everyone. And then behind that surface, we have other layers of ourselves. And when you're sitting there in silence staring at someone, it's really hard to maintain that facade for so long. At some point, that facade is going to begin to break down. And, I mean, she's very insightful into the human psyche. That's why I think she does these shocking types of, installation pieces.
I mean, we want to not get too creepy, but you mentioned the blood, you mentioned the cutting. I mean, she carved a pentagram on her chest, or not her.
Now you all know that us witches, we have trademark on that pentagram, so nobody else can be using it. If so, royalties have to be sent to us.
Chest, but her abdomen, and posted it online. There's nudity involved. I mean,
oh my God, nudity. Nudity. Oh no, won't somebody think of the children? Yeah, that's our natural state, jackass.
And anyway, this woman is a self-proclaimed follower of this Thelema religion that Aleister Crowley started in 1900.
She is not self-proclaimed follower of Crowley. See, that's why I called this stream lies, because that's all it is. It is probably 75% bullshit filler truth and then 25% main point lies. It's just made up stuff. They have run out of any kind of ammunition to use against us. So what they have to do now is just make up lies to disparage us. I don't know why they hate us so much. I mean, they must truly, truly fear us, because as we all know from Yoda, fear is the root of anger. And he's probably right.
Before. And in there is all sorts of stuff that relates to this kind of thing. So I think many of these people are deluded, because this is not true, but they're deluded into thinking that if they have sex with young children, if they, however they do it, we don't get into details, that somehow gives them...
Yeah, you're not going to get into details because it's not true.
More life. That makes them live longer, that makes them stay healthy, and they can live and have longer life, because these guys don't want to die. None of these people want to die because...
Yeah, I don't think anybody wants to die, but you don't have a choice. I'm sorry, but you're going to die. It's just the fact of the matter.
They know deep down inside what's going to happen to them. They're going to go and stand before the judgment seat of Yahushua the Messiah, and they're going to have to answer for all of these abominable things they've done. So they want to stay alive as long as possible. And the lie that the devil tells them is that they're going to be like, the Highlander or some of these other characters, that they're going to live for hundreds and hundreds of years as long as they keep sodomizing.
What? You serious?
Is everything okay, Bill?
No, Bill. He's having a moment.
What was that? Did anybody else hear that?
No,
I didn't hear.
Bill.
I didn't hear anything.
That was bizarre. That was some all of a sudden, chamber orchestra music came on. And I just looked, my iTunes isn't on, It was about 20 seconds of classical music.
Yeah, he had a senior moment and he just doesn't want to admit it.
I didn't hear anything. Wow, that's that. We'll definitely. I'll be in prayer while you're talking, man.
I wonder what classical piece it was. Maybe what's a good
Hallelujah.
classical piece?
Well, it could have been worse. It could have been, Black Sabbath or something. But anyway,
that would have been perfect.
So I kind of blew what was in my head. But I mean, that's I guess what I want to say is that there's a delusion among these people. And of course there's huge money in this too. So it's both money and it's power. It's occult power and it's immortality, and it's all wrapped up in one thing. And if you look at, you look at like Hillary Clinton, and that woman, she looks most of the time like she's death warmed over, and yet somehow or other they got her up on those stages to do those debates with Trump, and she looked reasonably good, And I wonder, Mary and I, my wife, we were joking. I wonder what they gave her, or how many, babies they had to sacrifice to enable her to have that kind of energy, or whatever it might be. And I don't know. I can't say that that's really what happened.
I almost feel like I'm picking on the mentally ill. I mean, it's like these people are so deluded. They are so deeply deluded. It is like, it's crazy. And the only frightening thing is that it spreads. There are so many people who are so easily deluded by this crap. Crazy.
Happened, but it's obvious that they did something to her, because she certainly didn't look that vital and that together when she was out on the campaign.
Well, she was a senator of a state. She's lived, and she's married to Bill Clinton. She's probably all stressed out. Yeah, it's stress and old age. I mean, she's been in politics. Wow, since she's been in politics for a very, very, very long time, and it's a very, very stressful job. That's why a lot of people get in, get elected, and get out, because they can't handle the stress.
Trail. But that's an example. All of these people want to live forever.
No.
And that's part of
How do you know that, Bill? How do you know these people want to live forever?
What's going on, plus it's demonic. I mean, there's a demonic impulse to defile innocent children, and that's what these people are all doing. So it's like a win-win for the devil, and it's a tragedy for our country.
Unbelievable that they think this.
There's no doubt about that. Thank you for explaining that. David, now what are your thoughts on this whole thing? I know you've been sitting here looking at this all day, and I know...
Oh, no, Jabba the Hutt's going to speak up. Oh, shit. Oh, good.
It got my blood pressure through the roof today. I haven't gotten this mad about something in a long time. Basically, the main thing that made me the most mad about it, not that it's been going on, because as you know, David, we've been doing a documentary about this kind of stuff that's going on locally and in a lot of places through satanic ritual abuse. But the fact that it's so out there, the proof is out there, so easy for anybody to find. Anybody that has a brain on their shoulders can research this and find out it's not fake. But yet the mainstream media is classifying it as a hoax, and it made me so irritated. But anyway, what's your take on this, David?
Well, it's very much the same. As I was studying this today and really looking into it, and I just want to say I'm so thankful to be able to be on Now UC TV to help promote this and bring it out in the open, and to be on with Mr. Ramsey and with Bill. Bill was really out in front on the spirit cooking and helping us all to understand that. Mr. Ramsey's work on the Pizzagate has just been pristine, as I've told him before the broadcast. So I'm thankful to be able to hear from them this evening. And as I look at these things, it just gins up emotions and memories that are just disgusting. And we saw this, and I very well remember Bill talking about these things 25 years ago. And 25 years ago, we saw these things on a small scale in Evansville, Indiana, when we had the Blue House case, and we seen the whole thing. It's like a little mini picture of Pizzagate that we had here. And this Pizzagate, it's bigger by far than
the Blue House thing is something that I did a video on. You can go to my channel. You can see it. Basically, it was a group of these kids who believed that there was, that they were being abused, witnessing cannibalism, of course. And the responsible parties was two principals or one principal at a school. The police did a thorough investigation, talked to like over 180 people. The principal could not have been. He had witnesses. He was at he had witnesses that he was somewhere where he couldn't have been at the same time that this was going on. The whole thing was basically generated by these kids for attention, and this whole town kind of got split between people who believed it happened and people who didn't believe it happened. These are people who believed it happened, but the people who were accused of doing these things were not charged. The police did a thorough investigation. There was no charges done.
And the Blue House or then the Nebraska cover-up.
There was also no physical evidence, no physical signs of assault and sexual assault. I'll have to look it up again.
This is the clearest glimpse into the belly of the beast we've ever had. And sometimes I think that maybe, we get pretty down on the government when we talk about our spiritual, conspiratorial ideas of what they're doing. And I don't think we're overstating the case at all. These people are powerful people, and I wouldn't put anything past them. And I've seen this before. And 25 years ago in the Blue House case, we had the stories of how children were being taken from city to city, how perpetrators would go from city to city, and of the things they would do to stay out of the reach of honest law enforcement people that would want to bring them to justice. And the way that these things are, these symbols, these emails, people that don't believe this, you just gotta be kidding. This is just horrific, and it is just so infuriating. And there are a couple things that came up. I would like a couple names, and I want Mr. Ramsey to clarify them so that I can really speak to it correctly. But those connections have come up that connect with the Golden Dawn and with the OTO. And there was a film that I believe, or a play or something that Mr. Elefantes helped to promote, and it mentioned Anton Wilson. Is that correct?
It's called The Chapel Perilous, and it was a film that he produced. He's produced a couple of films. One that actually featured Freeman Fly, believe it or not. He's kind of a well-known, kind of conspiratorial type of host, but he was involved actually in an Alefantis film. But yeah, The Chapel Perilous is a phrase that comes from Robert Anton Wilson, who was the author of the Illuminatus trilogy that's filled with all kinds of conspiracy ideas, but also arcane references. And so to see James Alefantis be associated with something like that references this kind of Illuminati ideas was for me just a shock. It was astonishing. One of the other things is that in this Illuminati cards that a lot of people on the internet talk about were inspired by Robert Anton Wilson. And in one of those cards, there was something called Pizza for the Secret Meeting. And it's a picture of a slice of pizza. And the secret meeting is, kind of alludes to blackmail, like a blackmail operation where somebody, and there's actually on the pizza on the card is like a listening device. So, that's remarkable. And it seems like that phrase about pizza referencing young children has been around or in the know by certain segments of the kind of, underworld, I guess.
Or it could just be a term that means pizza. It could just mean just pizza, you idiots.
If I could throw something in there, not to interrupt David, but
go right ahead.
This chapel.
Oh, go listen to some classical music, Bill.
Perilous. I just devoured Robert Anton Wilson's books back in the 70s when they came out. Of course, I was into all this stuff then.
Of course you were.
But the Chapel Perilous actually comes from the Grail legends. And it's part of the knight's quest to get the Grail is they have to stay in, and I hope all of you know generally what the Grail's all about. But, the knight looking for the Holy Grail has to stay in this chapel overnight. And it's called the Chapel Perilous. And he sees this mysterious burning candle, and if he can stay the night there, then he's worthy to go on in his quest. Now, what's important about that in relation to this is that the Holy Grail is, of course, many things, but to the esoteric mind, it's a symbol of immortality, and that those who drink from it will be healed, and they will live forever.
That's the Celtic connection. Yes, the Grail can be associated with the symbol of the cauldron of transformation, rebirth, healing. Yes, there is that, because if you ever seen the Gunstrip cauldron, you see all these people going out to battle, then you see them coming back and then being dunked into this large cauldron, and then going back out into battle. And there's also an Irish legend of people who were basically, during the day they would fight, they would die, and then Diana Ket, one of the gods would take the dead bodies and put it into this cauldron, and they would be healed of their wounds. They would go back into battle. So yes, that is true, but it doesn't necessarily mean immortality in that sense as much as it does mean reincarnation, transformation, just like the legend of Caerdwyn and Taliesin, where, you know, she changed into various different animals, and so does he, and they have this whole thing. I'm just kind of encapsulating it.
And so the concept here is that, again, not to be redundant, but that the idea that by either, you know, molesting young children or even drinking their blood, things of that nature, that you can have immortality and live forever. That is, for some people, the meaning of the Holy Grail, which is, of course, really blasphemous because it's anything.
I don't know anyone who believes that. Maybe you did, Bill, when you were living off of human blood for 18 months, which you seem to not mention or mention when it's convenient.
But holy. It's totally, you know, despicable and evil and right out of the pit of hell.
Yeah, so why did you do it for 18 months?
So there's another whole layer of meaning there that is chapel perilous.
And Robert Anton Wilson was a big dean for me because, you know, back in the day, he was the hip columnist for Playboy, and he was a real devotee of Crowley. And he was the one, when Timothy Leary was in Vacaville prison, Anton Wilson visited him repeatedly and became very close friends with Leary, who, of course, believed himself to be Aleister Crowley reincarnated. And in the whole realm of satanic ritual abuse, the work that Timothy Leary did for the Massachusetts prison system way back in 1961 and 62, back when LSD was still legal, he did experiments on prisoners that developed a lot of the techniques that are used in brainwashing and creating altered personalities within children. And Anton Wilson,
I don't know where he's getting. He was telling. I mean, he was probably talking truth, but no, that's not what they. I think the FBI did try to create LSD as a truth serum, but that's not why they created it.
Was one of the ones that took a lot of Leary's ideas and published them. These were things he talked about in the Illuminati trilogy that Bill referenced. But one little quote here to just show the direct connection between Mr. Leary and Mr. Anton Wilson and what goes on with children. One little quote snippet from Mr. Wilson. He said, in the course of my investigations, I have undergone a number of occult initiations and have become aware of the basic similarity of such rituals in all traditions. The investigator is betraying no secret when we say that in the serious occult orders, such performances are not mere rituals, but real ordeals. Insofar as possible within the law, the candidate is often brought to a state of terror similar to the emerging condition of the nervous system in near-death crises. What occurs then and is experienced as rebirth is a quantum jump in neurological awareness. In Leary's terminology, new circuits are formed and imprinted. And this is the terminology of brain control and trauma purposely induced for the creation of alter personalities. And there was another name, and once again, I want Mr. Ramsey to help me, so we'll get this just specifically correct. But Kenneth Anger of the OTO, Kenneth Anger and James Franco, they also come up in regard to this. And I know you referenced that, Mr. Ramsey.
Yeah, that's correct. So Abramovich has been seen, with all of these kind of elite celebrities, and James Franco is one of them. Another is Lady Gaga, who stumped for Hillary Clinton, and people like Will Ferrell. There was the lead singer for No Doubt, Gwen Stefani. So all these people, but James Franco and her and Marina Abramovich seem to go far back. And James Franco is rumored to be a member of the OTO. I can't confirm it, but he seems to act like one. But more interesting is his association with Kenneth Anger. He really is an admirer of Kenneth Anger and has done a song that films a ritual with Kenneth Anger, and it's called Love in the Old Days. And they basically enact this kind of ritual where Kenneth Anger is the kind of central figure who is supervising the ritual. And so, you see these people are very connected. James Franco was actually going to participate in a Crowley ritual in Venice here a couple of
I have no idea what this has to do with Pizzagate, but they're off on some tangent at this point, but whatever. So right now what they're doing, I guess, is they're trying to line up characters to associate with something. I don't know exactly why they're pursuing this, but whatever.
years ago that was headed by a Kenneth Anger acolyte by the name of Brian, what was his name? Brian Butler. Interesting 5 and 6 letter names. Those are like the numbers for the magician. But Brian Butler held the rite of Bartzabel, which is the it's a ritual to Mars, and it actually drew a big audience in Venice. And they basically take a guy, put him in the center of the ritual, cover his head, and he's supposed to be spirit possessed. And so, these people do. Actually, one of the interesting things another researcher found out from the Podesta emails is that somebody mentioned the word thelema, Crowley's word for the will.
I do know that Kenneth Anger was very much into Crowley. I know that. I know he did a little movie, which I don't think ever got completed, called Lucifer Rising. And he used a lot of Crowley ritual in that movie, a lot of Egyptian symbolism. I don't know if it actually, I've never seen it. I've seen little bits and pieces of it. But I do know that Kenneth Anger read Crowley a lot and really liked his works.
HELEMA, and reference that to John Podesta, which is a very specific term for Crowley. And somebody asked him for a favor, asked John Podesta for a favor and said, can you do a thelema for me? It was very interesting when I came across that. So, Kenneth Anger and...
Yeah, but thelema is the Greek word for, will, desire, something. I'll have to look it up. But if you look up the definition of thelema in the Greek, you'll see that it comes out. It's kind of a weird thing to say in an email, but I don't think that means that he was referencing Thelemites or people who study thelema, because as I'm sure most of you know, Thelemites have a specific greeting that they use for each other, and that is the greeting that they use. And so that's already a code that all Thelemites pretty much use to communicate with each other. So if he was actually a Thelemite, he would have somehow incorporated that greeting into somehow communicating. He wouldn't use the word thelema.
James Franco and Marina Abramovich.
Even if he was found out to be a Thelemite or follow thelema, which I doubt, that still doesn't matter. It's not like the occult is illegal.
Kind of roll in the same circles, it seems.
And do we have a connection between Media Matters and George Soros?
That's a good question. I've looked at some of the financing that went to Comet Ping Pong, and George Soros gave money to Comet Ping Pong, James Alefantis' restaurant, and so that would be a connection if you go. Brock is the boyfriend of James Alefantis. So there's a connection there, and it's my understanding one other researcher found out that Hillary Clinton and her foundation granted $10,000 to Marina Abramovich. So there seems to be a connection there as well. But yeah, and another interesting part there's all of these interesting pictures of Alefantis in kind of eyes wide shut, outfits with masks. And one of David Brock, who was his boyfriend, had a party called Welcome to the After Party. It was a party that was in D.C. by invitation only that started at 12 p.m. And kind of in my research, you hear about these parties that take place after the first party. There's a party that goes from 9 to 12, and then things get shadier and sketchier after midnight. So those are just a few things about this whole situation that really make it look even more depraved.
Yeah. Just one thing to add, if I might, is Kenneth Anger, returning to that subject. He was huge in the Church of Satan originally, back in the 60s and 70s. I travel in those circles, and the thing is, he made a movie back then, an underground film that was called Lucifer Rising. Mm-hmm. And in it, he also was close friends with Charles Manson. So you see this kind of weird web. I mean, he's like one of the elder statesmen now that LeVay's been dead for about 20 years. But Anger, I don't know if he's even still alive, but he would be one of the elder statesmen of the whole dark Crowley, Thelema type stuff. Really all the way back into the days of Manson in the late 60s. So Anger was and maybe still is, a very, very nasty dude.
Yeah, he connects to Crowley. He connects the OT.
Yeah, I know that Kenneth Anger was very much into Crowley. I don't know if he was in the Church of Satan. I'm probably going to say maybe. He might have been. But I know that Kenneth Anger was very much, again, he really enjoyed Crowley's work. And especially when he was working on that film, Lucifer Rising.
Connects to Jim Page, Mick Jagger, the very elite of the elite. And this whole story, and of course, we're speaking to the choir. Mr. Ramsey is the authority on this with the book that he wrote on the Children of the Beast. But this just has all of the connections that you don't want to see. And it's just my prayer that, we could just speak hope tonight and healing to those that have been victimized with this.
So this, again, you see, this is their solution. So they have just talked about all this stuff, assuming that all of this stuff is actually happening, and their solution is to pray about it. I can't think of anything more useless to do if somebody is being harmed, is to pray for them. If somebody is being harmed, stop it. Call the police. Call the FBI. You physically get involved or whatever. You don't sit there and pray about it. That is the least you can do, because even doing nothing is more than praying about it. I mean, praying about it is completely pointless and ridiculous. You cannot stop physical abuse by praying about it. You have to actually stop it. Then you can put something in place to prevent it from happening again. But if it's actually happening, you want to contact the proper authorities, get it to stop immediately.
And even to the perpetrators, if they would truly repent, that there is hope and deliverance in Jesus. And I believe what we're going to see is, with programs like this, we're going to see victims come forth. There have been thousands and thousands of people victimized, and I'm sure that many of these victims are not in a position where they can even be free to say anything. But the scope of this thing is huge. And once that publicity gets out and they know that there are people that are supportive, I believe we're going to see victims come forward. I think it's inevitable.
I agree with that. I actually think that January 20th will be a very important date. So,
see, and that's the other thing, is that there's no crime that's been committed. There's no victim. This is all conjecture and hearsay around something that they believe is happening, but there's been no crime. There's been no victim that has come forward.
When this administration changes to a new one.
And I quite frankly, for me, I have said that I am going to give Mr. Trump the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to pray for him. But if he caves on this issue, my grace for him is going to be running real low. I really think it's if somebody can look at this situation, and you know that he's going to be able to look at it. If he doesn't pursue this, I'm not going to have much credibility for him, for someone that's going to want to do the right thing.
The FBI has already determined that this is not worthy of investigation. So what is Trump going to do? Trump is not going to do anything. He's being advised. They're telling him exactly what's going on. This is bullshit. That's what it is. Jabba the Hutt.
And that
he can really turn this thing around. I mean, in every which way. I mean, we were talking earlier about all he has to do to get these media hounds, this Associated Press Nazi system of propaganda. All he has to do to make them nothing anymore is stop doing interviews with them. He needs to do interviews with other media companies that he deems are legitimate, and needs to do them strictly with them and not do any more with CNN, no more with Fox, no more with MSNBC, and just completely leave them in the dark about everything.
Oh, yeah.
It'll shut them down. If he did that and he put these people away, I'd be very happy with him. I have a feeling he went to drain the swamp and he realized there's some ancient gators in there. They got some really sharp teeth, and he might be trying to, not lay all his cards out on the table. At least that's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah.
I'm too.
Yeah, and as it's brought out with the Denny Hastert, John Podesta connection, this goes across party lines, and he's got he'll have to go against the Democrats and the Republicans to drain this swamp.
It's amazing how big and powerful these conspiracy theories are when they're all made up in your head.
But I just pray that he does do it. And if he turns a blind eye to this, he'll lose all credibility with me.
Whatever.
But that's just me.
Okay,
well,
next.
I agree with you. There's a lot of things that Trump needs to do to restore credibility and faith in, by the American people, I think. It's not just this issue, whether he addresses the criminality by Hillary Clinton and the Clinton Foundation, that'll be something of concern. I think that you're right. He's not going to show all his cards. He's not going to tell exactly what he's going to do or signal these people, Yeah, I know
I sure wouldn't, with all the bodies that Hillary Clinton and her people have left behind. You can only imagine how many people have been dead by this crew of.
Are they still talking about Pizzagate, or are they just off on bashing the Democratic Party? I'm confused.
Swamp gators. Oh man, I can't even think of a good word for them. Just the worst kind of people in the world.
Yeah, and I mean, this whole situation with Pizzagate could involve, if you kind of put the pieces together of the WikiLeaks, where they're having parties, where they are involved in this whole, child situation, but also trying to become cozy with all of these media people. So if you kind of put that together, where they're definitely trying to keep, a tight grip on what the media does and says, and they're also running blackmail operations, it could explain a lot of what really happened during this most recent election cycle. You don't know who's been blackmailed. And if you go back, I've talked to some other hosts about this whole situation. This isn't the first kind of pedophile situation. We've had the whole Franklin cover-up, but there was an attached guy by the name of Craig Spence who did turn up dead, but he was involved in blackmailing media figures of that era, back in the 80s. And there was something from one of the books, I think it was from the Franklin cover-up, that talked about him getting Ted Koppel involved with a 15-year-old boy. And Ted Koppel was really, one of the head anchors of one of the major media companies. I can't remember which one it was, CBS or something like that. But it wouldn't surprise me at all if some of these major figures have been compromised. I've seen pictures of a lot of these media people with John Podesta. So you don't really know what's going on.
So just because you take a picture next to somebody doesn't mean that... See, this is the connections that they make. Oh, well, John Podesta is taking his picture next to this guy who did something corrupt some time ago, and so obviously they're in cahoots together. I think I'm losing my mind. Seriously, I think I am. I think all of this is just, my brain is turning to pizza.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, he's the one who hosted Nightline on ABC for years, Ted Koppel, and a very highly respected journalist. But you're right. I mean, anything is possible with these people, and they will, if they can corrupt anybody like that, they will. Whether it's through vice or whether it's through lust for power or whatever it might be, they'll try and get you because that's what the devil does.
Of course.
And David, you're absolutely right. There is hope. I mean, the fact that I was able to get out of Thelema and get out of Freemasonry and get out of Mormonism and get, born again and set free by the blood of Yahushua. I mean, there's hope for anybody. And I want people to understand that. As overwhelming as this stuff might seem, especially to, pardon the expression, the uninitiated, this is terrifying stuff.
Why does he keep saying that?
And especially the thought that this could be going on at the highest echelons of power. This isn't just some creepy guy, who lives in a crummy house somewhere in the streets of Evansville, Indiana. We're talking right near the White House, maybe even in the White House. And, in spite of all that, the Almighty is on the throne. Yahweh rules, and he's going to dispose of these people the way he wants to. But we can certainly pray that this...
Yes. That's what you should do, Bill. You believe all this stuff is happening. There's cannibalism, children being abused. Yes, Bill. I think you should call all your prayer warriors together, and I think you should have a big, huge prayer circle for these people. Yes. And if you see a woman walking down the street and she gets her purse stolen, rather than actually chasing after the guy and trying to catch the purse, just hit your knees and pray for her, Bill. Yeah, that's the best thing you can do.
Stuff would, be brought to light years ago. This is something that Ed Decker and I, started promoting, and Larry Kunk got on the bandwagon. The idea of following Ephesians 5:11 and exposing the unfruitful works of darkness and praying that these things would come to light, praying that the Almighty would expose these things. And interestingly, after we start...
So you have to pray to have them exposed and then pray to get them to stop. When do you actually get involved? When do you decide that you need to change stuff that's going on around you? You just pray and hope it keeps changing? Is that your level of involvement, Bill?
Started doing that, and I don't know, maybe David was in on that whole prayer initiative too. We started seeing things like a drop in the membership of the Freemasons. We started seeing things coming out like the satanic ritual abuse in the Mormon church, which most people don't even know about because that also got buried. That's from back in the late 80s. And, the fact that the presiding bishop of the LDS church, Glenn Pace, way back then, he issued a report that satanic ritual abuse was epidemic among Mormons, temple Mormons. Back then, right in the Wasatch.
Then it would be Mormon ritual abuse. They won't even accept responsibility of congregations that are similar to them. If a Mormon church or somebody who's a Mormon is molesting a child, first of all, it's just abuse. It's just sexual abuse. It needs to stop. But it's not how can it, if it's happening in the Mormon church, how can it be satanic? It doesn't make any sense. That's like saying Lutheran abuse or a Mormon church. Ugh.
Valley, which is the beating heart of Mormondom, right near Salt Lake. So, if we pray that the evil works of darkness,
they won't even accept responsibility for their own actions of their people within their own groups
would be exposed. I believe our Heavenly Father will honor that, both for the sake of justice, but also for the sake of these victims, especially these children, that they would be able to be set free from this stuff and be able to come to Messiah and have a reasonably normal life.
Yes, just keep praying for them, Bill. I'm sure it's all going to go away. Just keep praying, Bill.
Through His blood and through deliverance and victory in Him. So yes, we need to emphasize that in the midst of all of this creepiness.
It's a picture.
And 1994, if I remember correctly, was the year that I met Larry Kunk, and for 12 years, we were an annual speaker at the National Leadership Conference on Ministry to Masons, and I know that you were at a lot of those, Bill, almost all of them. And back then, there was a very low threshold of awareness, and I know Bill and I were the first people ever, I believe, to talk about the connections between satanic ritual abuse and Freemasonry.
All that is just a deflection. It's just a deflection. It doesn't matter what religious denomination anyone is. If a crime is happening, they are responsible for the crime. Doesn't matter what religion they follow or anything. It's a crime. It needs to stop.
And I remember at the conference in St. Louis, I told Larry that I wanted to talk about that, and he made me bring proof before his board of documentation before he would let me speak. But I remember getting it all together of all the personal testimonies and of all the evidence of the people way back then that we had that were satanic ritually abused either by Freemasons or on Freemason property or in Masonic ritual, and he give me the go ahead. And today there is a general awareness among many people, and today you can see Freemasonry be talked about everywhere, and I thank God for that. And there's a general understanding of the role that secret societies play in this. And always when these scenarios come down, whether it was the Son of Sam situation, I remember back then when Maury Carey wrote his book, The Ultimate Evil, he got sued because he made the allegation about OTO and snuff films. Well, he couldn't prove it. And, I wouldn't criticize him for that, but he just couldn't prove it. And
well, that's the whole point. If you you can't slander someone. Yes, you have to have proof, you Jabba the Hutt. Yes, that's the whole point of bringing an accusation against someone, because you're defaming their character. If you accuse someone of a crime, a heinous crime, and they are innocent of that, then that is slander. And yes, you can be sued for it. It takes a very long time. It's very expensive, but yes, you can do it. And if you have evidence for a crime happening, don't pray about it. Bring it to the police.
Always we see Crowley, we see the Golden Dawn, the OTO, we see all these political corruptions, and this brings up a tight knot in my gut, because I can think of specific instances here in Evansville where I know the police could have brought to justice people that were prostituting children and abusing children, and they just didn't do it. I'll just say, I know someone personally that volunteered to wear a wire right here in Evansville, where they were prostituting children out of a hotel. And it was all set up. I was involved in the situation, and this person was ready, and it went so far as this guy was wired up with the wire on him, and it got shut down. And I could just tell more stories that it might be best I just don't tell. But this just reeks.
So if this guy was wearing a wire, I guess he was going undercover. They've done stings like that before in the past. So why did it get shut down? Did he actually get the evidence? Something about that story is not quite adding up.
Of all the same ingredients that winds up in the rich fulfilling their perverted lust and the innocent being abused. And I just pray to the Lord this afternoon that He intervenes in this situation and brings these people to justice and brings hope and healing to those that have been abused, to let them know there is hope, that they can find their way. And just like Bill said, there's no better example than Mr. Bill Schneblin. And I know a phrase that Bill uses that I repeat often. I heard him say it years ago, that there's nothing the devil can do to you that the Lord cannot undo.
So let me get this right. What you want to do is you want to pray to God to bring these people who you believe are doing these crimes to justice. And so what you're going to do is you're going to pray that these people come to justice. How about taking whatever evidence you have and taking it to the proper authorities, Jabba the Hutt? Oh, you know what? You probably don't have enough evidence to convict someone. That's probably why. So that is probably why you've never taken this stuff to the police. You probably did once, and the police said, thank you very much. We'll look into this, filed it away in the circular file because there's not sufficient evidence to investigate and convict someone.
And that's
Amen to that.
message of hope we can bring in the midst of all of this darkness and heaviness, because it just, I just get a knot in my stomach from it, because it just brings back all of these old feelings and memories.
Yeah, why don't you pray some more to fix the situation rather than doing something about it then?
You know, I would certainly add to that, and I think what needs to be also emphasized, and I'm not saying specifically in your community, David, but generally speaking, a lot of law enforcement people are Freemasons, and a lot of judges are Freemasons, and a lot of lawyers are Freemasons, and that really corrupts the system.
So you set up this scenario to be a no-win situation. If you believe that the police are corrupt, that's why. How are you going to win then? I mean, it's you set up a whole no-win situation. If you believe that the system is corrupt, they're hiding these things, the media is corrupt, the government is corrupt, the police are corrupt, the CIA is corrupt, the FBI is corrupt. If you believe all of this is corrupt, you've set up a situation where it's no win. Are these people honestly this blind? Do they honestly believe that think about it. Occultist people in the media, judges, FBI, CIA, police, all these people are in cahoots together. I mean, who are you going to turn to? Who are you going to turn to? You set up this whole situation, a no-win situation. The UN? Okay, contact the UN. Contact the humanitarian branch of the UN. Tell them what's going on.
Enormous.
Unbelievable.
And I can remember I was called to speak as an expert witness on masonry. I had that many times when I was ministering with Ed out in Washington State. And I drove into the center of the state. I can't think of the county, but in the center of Washington State. And I sat up there, on the witness stand next to the judge. And they were asking me, this is a case of satanic ritual abuse. And I looked over at the judge because he greeted me and was very cordial, but he was wearing a big Masonic ring on his right ring finger. And I thought, you're never going to get justice in this court. Because as I've documented in a couple of my videos, there are all these little signs and things that Masons can do in a courtroom or in other similar venues, because Masons, and this is also true for these higher level groups, they swear that they will give preferential treatment to one another when there's danger to life, limb, or property, even to the point of
You have to see Heathen Haven, the episode we did last night, to understand this. But once you watch that, you'll understand what's so funny about that. But anyhow, let's get back to this bullshit story of a judge wearing a Mason ring where he was called to be a witness for Freemasonry.
protecting a Mason who's a murderer or a traitor. They will do that. In the higher degrees of Masonry, every Mason swears to that. And when you realize how many judges, how many lawyers, how many police officials are Freemasons, and also how many politicians are Freemasons. I mean, the last, I think, known, well, of course, Bill Clinton was De Molay, which is like he was a grand something or other of De Molay, which of course is not a very good advertisement for De Molay. That's a Masonic youth organization for someone that might not know that. But, we haven't had a lot of presidents that were overtly Freemasons lately. But of course, both Bushes were skull and bones, which is even worse than the Masons. That's why, when all these people are gushing, these evangelicals are, oh, thank goodness we have Bush, he's such a good Christian. And I was going, oh my goodness, these people don't know. Bless their hearts, they're so sweet and they're so innocent and they don't know. But we can't afford, we've got to be wise as serpents too, as well as harmless as doves. Amen? It's critical.
Right. There's no doubt about it. And, I can, people are asking about the OTO. The best way I can describe these people, they're the worst of the worst when it comes to secret societies. I mean, some of them are scummy people like, the people in the West Memphis Three, that William Ramsey had talked about in his book about the, West Memphis Three. But the elites, according to, we had a show last night night before last with Timothy Alberino, and he says a lot of the elites, a lot of the people are not only in the Freemasons, but they're scared of them because these people are disgusting people that will slit your throat. I mean, they're evil, wicked, disgusting people.
Yeah. Yeah.
They have obviously never, ever read any OTO material or met somebody who is in the OTO. Oh, man.
Ordo Templi Orientis was dedicated to Aleister Crowley's Book of the Law, which the basic priest.
OTO was around before Aleister Crowley. Aleister Crowley made a book. What book was it? It was some book that he had published, and somebody from the OTO actually contacted him and said, how did you get a hold of our material? And he's like, that's not, I didn't get a hold of your material. And, but anyhow, he actually joined the OTO. He was invited into the OTO by, I can't remember the person's name. But anyhow, the OTO was around before Crowley.
That was do what thou wilt is the whole of the law. And there's nothing that could sum up people's philosophy any better. And
that's Thelema.
Crowley's favorite expressions was that he moved in the air of British aristocracy. And he prided himself in the fact that he was connected with elite people, not only in England, but all over the world.
He probably considered himself to be one of the upper class and well-connected. I mean, Crowley was an actor. He loved to be center stage, and he was very very jealous and conniving, and I mean he was quite a character. He was a genius, but he was quite a character, and he probably believed himself part of the aristocracy.
The time that Mr. Crowley was being hailed with tabloids as the most evil person in the world, he was speaking in Masonic lodge halls all over the world and making connections. And a quote that I refer to often that he used in his autobiography, he said that if he would put all of his Masonic medals on at one time, it would be enough to make an elephant to stumble. And this is very much the eyes wide shut scenario that he typified. And he was indeed the one that pioneered it. And it was not only the evil that this man taught, but his tremendous genius in perpetrating it through making connections with the elite and using Freemasonry as the system to do what he did. And also in his autobiography, he talks how that he was recruited into the Ordo Templi Orientis out of Freemasonry by Karl Kellner, a German Freemason and the head of the German OTO. And it just goes from there. And the whole thing, it just filters down from Crowley. And you go to Parsons, you go to Massey, you go to Paperclip. This is just such a huge thing that connects in all directions. And we are getting a glimpse here into the beast, the very heart of it.
Again, just because, first of all, Freemasons, you may have somebody who's in the OTO or Wicca or whatever who's also a Freemason, but that does not necessarily mean that there is any connection between the two. I know that there are people who are Freemasons who don't want anything to do with people who practice Wicca or the OTO. They're very Christian. That's what they do. They don't want to have anything to do with it. When they're in the lodge, they treat each other, perfectly fine. They go out, they have coffee, whatever, but they have no interest in it. They have absolutely no interest in it whatsoever. That's not what they're focused on. So just because two people who are in different organizations doesn't mean that they're in cahoots together. It doesn't mean that. That is a stupid association to make.
And I have to believe that this is the Lord's doing. Well, I know that it is, because he said that there's nothing conceived that won't be revealed. And we're getting a real look here at the very ugly reality of what this system is.
What?
And since we're talking about the OTO, I was a member of the Pasadena OTO.
Of course you were, Bill. Of course. Of course you were a member of the OTO, Bill. What have you not been?
Just to explain, and there were originally 9 degrees when Crowley inherited the order from Kellner, and he took it to the English-speaking world, and he was made the head of the OTO4, that he referred to it as Britain, Ireland, and all the sanctuaries of the Gnosis, Gnosticism. And while in that group, I was made a Gnostic Catholic bishop, and we did the Gnostic Mass, all that stuff. But part of the core thing of the OTO is you go up to 9 degrees, and in the 9th degree, they teach you sexual magic.
Of course. And I'm sure he was probably a 9th degree OTO. I'm sure, of course. He was probably a 10th degree.
Some of the stuff that I've already alluded to. But what Crowley added to that is he added the 11th degree. And you see in these various systems, they always use Roman numerals. And if you look at the Roman numeral 9 and the Roman numeral 11, they're exactly inverted from each other. And so the mysteries of the 9th degree were heterosexual magic. He called them the Eye of Isis. And then you go to the 11th degree and you get into homosexual sex magic, and he called that the Eye of Horus. And beyond that, I'm not going to get into it. But again, the idea that by doing these things, you can achieve immortality, eternal youth, and eternal life. That is what these people believe. And of course, the Ordo Templi Orientis pretends to have the secret of the Grail. And we're back to the Chapel Perilous again. So, in so many ways, all this stuff is together. And you're right, David. I mean, the English, what do you call it? The English nobility were very much, they loved Crowley because he was weird, he was perverse, and there was something that really appealed to him.
No, they didn't love him. That's why he earned the title of the most wickedest man in the entire world, is because so many people actually hated him. He actually created a lot of enemies.
To them about him. And his influence spread to America, you know, and we understand that too, through people like Jack Parsons and and of course L. Ron Hubbard, who went on to found Scientology. So this is, you know, it's a huge web of intrigue, and Crowley is right at the center of it.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that these guys are following some of the precepts of Crowley where, you know, the Book of the Law calls for blood. It repeats things for rituals. You're supposed to have blood of the moon or some beast. So I think that there's something like that. And you can see from the screenshots.
That's all metaphor. I don't know exactly what he's referring to, but chances are it was metaphorical.
If John can show that, one of the creepier screenshots that came out of the Alephantis Instagram is this ritualized thing involving teenage kids that clearly took a lot of time to put together. And, yeah, that's it. So it's just one of many creepy things, and they can't explain this away. You know, it's hard to explain, you know, this is definitely not normal.
It looks like they are staged for a picture, or maybe somebody calls it art, but that's what it looks like to me.
So that's just one aspect. But Crowley, you know, you guys talked about how he was aristocratic. Crowley believed that the Book of the Law itself was aristocratic, and he actually believed in an aristocratic revolution. He did not believe in really proselytizing his ideas to anybody from the middle or lower classes. He was really kind of an elitist snob. And that's why he had all that influence through so many people in the U.S. and through Europe. And I think that that's, you know, one interesting aspect of what Crowley's idea. And here you see this guy who is formerly the chief of staff for the Clinton, you know, White House, who was a very powerful person and who was the head of Hillary Clinton's campaign, talking about the Lima in his emails and being involved in this blood ritual spirit.
No. Somebody in the email asked John Podesta for a favor, and he said, I need you to do me a thelema, which was kind of an odd thing. But again, if you look up thelema, what it means in the Greek, it means like a request, an action, a favor, something like that. So he's actually basically asking him for a favor. Yes, it was kind of odd that he used the word thelema, but I'm sure that it has some kind of an explanation. Maybe his heritage, or maybe it was in reference to something else. It was like an inside joke. Who knows exactly what it is? But again, Thelemites have a specific type of greeting that they use for each other. So chances are they probably would have used that in some way, shape, or form, or just directly, because again, practicing the occult is not illegal. So they don't have to use code. At least not anymore.
Cooking with somebody who looks like a witch. So, you know, the past is present.
Looks like, what do you mean looks like a witch? Looks like a witch. Are you going to start like pointing fingers and saying, oh, that person looks like a witch, condemn them? Yeah, they tried that in the 16th century. Didn't end well. 13th to 16th century.
Absolutely. I would just like to ask Bill something here.
No, don't
might
ask
not be,
Bill
be
anything.
something we ought to talk about. We have to be careful how we nuance it. But did you ever have any connection with the OTO profess houses?
His answer is going to be yes. I know it's going to be yes, because this man's done every fucking thing in the entire world.
What was the word you used?
What they called their profess houses.
Oh, profess.
The profess. I say profess down here in southern Indiana. We say profess.
I see. Okay. Well, hallelujah. No, the outfit that I was with at the time was run by Grady P. McMurtry out in Pasadena. And of course, you know how these things go. I mean, they claim, oh, we're the one true OTO. And then there was another OTO in Switzerland that H.R. Giger guy was involved with, that weird artist that designed the alien, thing for the movie. And there's an English.
That just happens to be one of the most famous OTO groups. Yeah, Bill, you were a part of that one.
OTO that's run by Kenneth Grant. So, and each one claims to be the real one. I think it's Kenneth Grant. His English OTO is the one that has the profess houses. So no, I studied all of Kenneth Grant's books. I devoured them. I was involved with one of Kenneth Grant's main colleagues, Michael Bertiot, but I never got involved with the profess house.
Oh, great. So now I have to do research to find out if he was ever in the OTO. Okay, Bill, stop being in organizations, okay? I'm tired of calling these people up and bugging them and asking them if you were in their organization.
This is no.
Did you meet Grady McMurtry?
No, I did not. I just corresponded with him and, got stuff through the mail from them and, of course, sent them money and whatnot. So, no, I never met the guy.
Yeah.
So you did send them money. Oh, okay. All right. So there'll be a record of that, right, Bill?
He actually sat at the foot of Aleister Crowley. He was in London right there at the end of the war. And I write about him in Children of the Beast. So he's kind of an interesting character that connects Crowley to Robert Anton Wilson and Jacques Vallée. All these guys kind of in the 60s would meet up in Northern California. So it's kind of interesting connections.
Oh, yeah. He claimed to be the Caliph, and he would actually dress like a sultan. McMurtry would, and because you see, if you look at, interesting enough, Crowley designed the Book of the Law material and the rituals that flowed from it to be very much like Islam. And, they actually talk about a Thalamic caliphate, just like the Muslims talk about the Islamic caliphate. And supposedly there's this succession that, like an apostolic succession of evil that McMurtry tried to claim was his, and that Kenneth Grant tried to claim was his, and so on and so on. But it's kind of like the same thing that happened with Islam after the death of Muhammad.
Yeah, there was another guy, Germer, who was supposed to be the true disciple of OTO after Crowley, but he really didn't seem to care that much about the order after Crowley died, according to them.
Germer.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. Well, Crowley himself tried to get a successor, and they kept going crazy on him. There was a guy named Alan Bennett that he tried to work with, and he ended up freaking out, and I don't know whatever happened to him. He called himself.
He became a Buddhist.
Frater Achad, but I think he ended up coming to a bad end. And of course, almost, all of Crowley's wives and whatnot, they all went crazy. And I mean, I can imagine why that would be the case. I mean, the guy just left a trail of death and depravity everywhere he went. And then he died pretty much alone in a little house next to a cemetery in England, living on nothing.
Yeah, in a halfway house. Yeah. Yeah, he didn't exactly die a very romantic death.
But heroin and poached eggs, pretty pathetic end.
This is true.
And the whole history of this satanic Masonic connection has always been couched in the cover-up and the fearful suppression of anyone that would try to expose it. We see all these things, the way that they're trying to prevent this from getting out, but all the way back with Leo Taxel, a name that a lot of people wouldn't know, but
yeah, the guy who made up the hoax about Masons worshiping Lucifer. Yeah.
That immediately gets a giggle out of Bill. I'm sure probably William also. But Leo Taxel was the fellow that was going to expose, and he was leaking out information about Albert Pike, claiming that Albert Pike was a Satanist and was holding black masses in Charleston, South Carolina, with a lady that was the high priestess named Diana Vaughn. Well, one day when Mr. Taxel comes out to give his big revelation at a press conference, Mr. Taxel says that everything he said was a lie and that Diana Vaughn was his typewriter.
Yes,
well, I
it was a
have
lie.
another fella that it comes back to the OTO. His name was Lewis Culling, and he wrote a book called Sex Magic. And Mr. Culling paid a couple thousand English pounds to be able to establish his OTO chapter. And I have his book, and I have a copy of his charter. And the charter that he purchased for it was quite a bit of money back in the day, and would still be quite a bit of money today that he paid to get his own OTO charter. But it is signed by Diana Vaughn and Wynn Westcott. And it's very interesting that when it come time for a couple thousand English pounds, that Diana Vaughn became real and was able to sign her name. So the whole history of this and of the suppression and the cover-up.
Now I have to research this. I have no idea about this. I'll have to look into it, find out if it's true or not, or how he's coming up with it. It sounds fishy to me.
It just stinks. It just literally stinks. And for everyone that has an ear to hear, and this is why.
Again, what does all of this have to do with Pizzagate? They're just chasing rabbits around.
I just hope this gets away from them, even with all of their efforts to try to cover this up. The information in this is just so profound, and with the information that Bill and Mr. Ramsey are putting out and that other people are picking up on, I think they're going to have a hard time suppressing this.
Yeah, everybody and their fucking grandmother's talking about this. So if there's not enough evidence for the FBI to go and do an investigation, there's not enough evidence. Otherwise, the FBI would be doing an investigation. You morons just keep talking about it.
Because it's just too blatant.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Well, I know it's totally burning up the internet. I mean, you know how YouTube works. Once you look at one thing, they'll start sending it. I mean, I bet I've got 20 things in my YouTube thing this morning about Pizzagate, And of course, the signal to noise ratio is very high, as with everything on the internet. But, there's people out there doing very good work. And, and I appreciate what everybody here is doing. It's important, and my prayer is that it does bring down this thing like a house of cards, and that Donald Trump is able to drain the swamp. But that's why we've been exhorting people to really pray for him.
Yeah, keep praying. That'll fix it.
Number one, that he'd stay on target, and number two, that he would, not be assassinated or, poisoned or something like that. Because, I tell people, when I was in the Illuminati, I was told that what happened to Nixon was because he went against the Illuminati, because he was a high-level Illuminatist, and he got ahead of schedule and went to China before they wanted him to do that. And because of that, we all know what happened. We had Watergate.
So Nixon was an Illuminati. Okay, all right. Sure, why not, Bill? Okay.
It became the gate thing of all the other gates, And then, of course, Kennedy, in the same way, he wanted to undo the Federal Reserve. And, there's a whole thing you could do on Kennedy's assassination, which I don't have time to get into. But, and they shot him. And they shot him in a Masonic plaza in Dallas, which is the most Masonic city in Texas, which is one of the most Masonic states in America. And you figure it out. So,
there's probably not there is probably not a plaza in any major city in the United States that does not have Freemasonic symbolism. Oh, God.
There is an effort here to do that, but we have to stand firm, and we have to pray that the unfruitful works of darkness will continue to be exposed, whether Trump is used or whether someone else is used, that they would be exposed.
Yes, keep
Amen.
praying. Yeah, that's a smart idea. Keep
Amen.
praying.
No doubt about that. I know, and hopefully Trump will do this. Like David said, if he doesn't, I'm going to be disappointed. But if I were him, I wouldn't say a word about it right now because he's not in power yet. Once he gets in power, that's a different story. Right now, he'd be just kind of testing his bulletproof vest at this point if he says anything about it. And, now would be an opportune time for him to say something about it, but only for a couple of reasons, but also the danger he would be in if he did say something right now.
So just an FYI, I'm going to be ending this stream at my time, 8:00. So another 5 minutes, and then I'm going to be stopping the stream. I want to see the rest of this, but I also want to watch Gotham. So I'll be ending the stream at 8.
Now, Hillary is wanting to recount everything and do a recount in the main states that were, close. And if he said something about Pizzagate, it would blow up the internet even more because he has more pull than the media does. As soon as he posts something, millions of people see it. But at the same token, if this is legitimate, he knows it. He knows that right now he would be putting himself in hot water. But and this is just thinking like a normal person. Anybody could think about this. I mean, he doesn't have the protection that he'll have once he's president. At least that's what I hope. But you're right. I mean, if he brings us out, there's going to be attempts on his life. Hopefully he puts the right people around him and makes some good decisions with this whole thing because, man, this is an ancient swamp and I don't know how to better way to put it, but these people have been doing this for a long time, ever since the beginning of time. This is the kind of stuff that caused the flood. This is the kind of stuff that, just completely destroyed our world at one time.
Yeah, just FYI, not to interrupt, but twice now I have had that weird music thing come over again. And the last 2 times it was some horrible, death metal type rock music.
Oh, good.
So I don't know where that's coming from. I can't figure out because I have no connection to any radio thing on my computer. So just FYI, something's going on.
Very, yeah.
Aliens are trying to contact Bill Snowden. They want him. He has done everything in the entire world. They want Bill Snowden. And you know what? Please, aliens, take him. You are more than welcome to take him up, study him. He can be initiated into whatever weird secret societies you have. Then he can come back down to Earth in like 100 years. I don't care. I'll be long dead. I won't care.
I haven't heard anything. Have you guys heard it on our end? Hopefully.
He's either full of shit or or his headset's picking up something.
Yeah. I know that David and Donna had some major stuff going on with their computer. We had, they took it in and they had viruses like crazy. People trying to destroy their computer. And when I went over there and looked at it, I saw it. And, have you guys had any problems since you've taken it in?
Well, not with that, but we have been having strange things going on with our YouTube channel, and it will be just like the most recent one we posted. It was racking up the hits, and I logged on, and hits were taken away, like in even 100 increments. The hits would be reduced, and it was strange, and it's happened on a couple of them. I've noticed this. I don't know whether it's being hacked or what's going on with it, but
that's just YouTube. I've heard of that before.
There's been some strange things going on our YouTube channel. It just looks like someone messing with it.
Well, yeah, I mean, Gons has been talking about his stats have been drastically decreasing. I mean, he has over 100,000.
Who said that?
Gons Shimura.
Really?
We've had over 1,000 people unsubscribe us in the last month. And a lot of people have been messaging me saying that they never unsubscribed and they wondered why they haven't been getting our stuff. We thankfully,
yeah, probably because they think your content is crap, John. So, this is the end of this. I'm going to end this broadcast so I can catch Gotham. But feel free to watch the rest of this on their channel and have a laugh. or enjoy the rest of your night or whatever it is you want to do. But thank you so much for joining me for this episode of Let's Watch Now UC TV. Good night and blessed be, and don't eat pizza. Don't eat pizza.